invite Sherry Newberger up to light candles for us and to lead us in the candle lighting blessing. So you'll start by reading the English Kavanah, and then you can light the candle, and then you say the blessing.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu l'echad l'chner shel
Amen.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Thanks very much. All right, Alan, I'd like to invite you up next to lead us in Kiddush. We'll turn to page 123.
Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu Zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh zecher litziyat mitzrayim ki banu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim V'shabbat kodecha v'yahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen. Thank you very much, Rabbi. Oh, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
All right, folks, we will continue on page 124, and let's read together in English. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, enmity and envy. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. Let's continue turning forward in our prayer book to page 138 for Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pene Shabbat nekabela, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, la la la, Pene Shabbat nekabela. Shamor vezachor bedibur echad, Hishmianu el hameyuchad. Shabbat, Adonai Echad, Ushemo Echad, L'Shem Ultiferet, Ve'eliti Lalecha Dudi Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat Nekabela, Lecha Dudi Likrat Kala, La La La, B'nei Shabbat Nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sof maseh b'machashava techila lechadudi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela lechadudi likrat kala la 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 B'nei Shabbat nekabela, Mikdash melech, ir melucha, kumitzai mitoch hafecha, Rav lach shevet be'emek habacha, ve'hu yachamol, alaykem lalecha dudi likrat kala. B'nei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dudi likrat kala, la la la, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Yamin u'smol tifrotzi ve'et Adonai taritzi hayad ish ben partzi ve'nismecha ve'nagila lecha dudi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabela lecha dudi likrat kala la 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 B'nei Shabbat nekabela Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam besimcha uvetzala toch emunei am segula boi chala lecha dudi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabela lecha dudi likrat kala la 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 B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Going to turn now to page 140. Page 140 for Psalm 92, Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat. Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat, Tov lehodot l'Adonai, Ulzamer l'shimcha elyon, Ulzamer l'shimcha elyon. Lehagid baboker chasdecha ve'emunatecha balelot alei asur v'alei navel alei higayon bechinor Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat Tov lehodot l'Adonai Ulzamer l'shimcha elyon Ulzamer l'shimcha elyon Ki simchatani Adonai befolecha B'masei yadecha ranein Me'odam kumachshevotecha Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat Tov lehodot l'Adonai Ulzamer l'shimcha elyon Ulzamer l'shimcha elyon. All right, and finally we will turn to page 142. Page 142 for Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech melechei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Barchuni leshalom melechei hashalom melechei elyon. Mi melech melechei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Tzitchem leshalom melechei hashalom melechei elyon. Mi melech melechei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Folks, let's turn forward now to page 145. I'll invite you to read with me in English. Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time, even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without the presence. Let's turn to 146 now. Please rise with me if you're able and comfortable for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Feel free to have a seat. And we're going to turn to page 149. Page 149, and we'll read together again in English. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamari Varavim. We'll continue on the next page, page 150. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Amcha Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadata, al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu uv'kumeinu, nasiach b'chukecha, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. We'll turn to 152 now. Please rise if you're able and comfortable doing so for the opening of the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Please feel free to have a seat. We'll continue on the next page. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, Adonai Elohechem Emet. Let's continue on page 157. We'll read together in English. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Page 158. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osei fele, malchutecha ra'u vanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Zelianu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch leolam hoed, v'nemar kifoda Adonai et Yaakov, ugeolom yad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. All right, folks, 161. Let's read together again in English. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Hey, folks, turning now to page 162, up the top. Yismechu ve'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat ve'korei oneg hamikadeshei shevi kulam yisbuhu ve'yitangu mituvecha Yismechu ve'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat ve'korei oneg hamikadeshei shevi kulam yisbehu ve'yitangu mituvecha. We are turning now to page 164. And I'd like to invite you to rise again with me, if you're able and comfortable doing so, for the evening Amidah. Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor veHanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chastei Avod ve'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo be'ahava. Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye metim atah Rav leHoshia, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye metim berachamim rabim, Sahomek noflim veralfei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha bal gevurot, Umido melach, Melech memit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lechayot metim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hametim. Please feel free to have a seat. Got a problem with the screen?
It's flickering again.
Okay. Oh, wait, there went off. Okay.
See if that helps.
Okay. Page 171. Let's read together in English. Days pass, and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Going to continue on 173 again. Let's read together. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. All right, we're going to continue on page 176 with the Hoda'ah blessing, the blessing of thanksgiving and acknowledgement. And as we tend to do, we're going to give folks a chance to mention a blessing you've experienced in your life, something you're feeling particularly grateful for this week. So we'll begin by reading together in English, and then if you'd like to share a blessing with us, just raise your hand. And do you have the mic? Marlon's got the mic, so she'll bring it around to you, and you can say it in the mic. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of our soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. And if you'd like to be called on, just raise your hand. We'll get the mic around to you in a sec.
I am very thankful that a multi-day project that I was doing for a professor from the University of Vermont has totally restored his 20-year-old dryer to working like it's new.
Good deal.
I'm grateful that my daughter came to visit, and she left before I had a leak in my kitchen and a flood, and hopefully it's fixed.
Hope so.
We just said that prayer reminding us of the miracles around us. And just today, my daughter sent me a video that my grandson caught. Every year, they homeschool, and every year they get butterfly chrysalises, and he happened to catch one of them as it was hatching. So she sent me the video, and then a little while later she sent, because they have to do their thing, their little wing exercises before they spread them out. So later she sent me a picture of the butterfly. So I am grateful for my grandson and his level of sensitivity, that child, for my daughter who shares all these little parts of their lives, and of course for the miracle of butterflies.
It's not every day you get to be a witness to butterfly calisthenics. Thank you.
I am grateful today to John Bergman and Martin Baker, who risked their lives to go up on the roof and rehang our reproductive freedom sign. So I think, I didn't check to see if it's out there, but I think it was. Okay.
No, it's up there. Yeah.
It's up.
All right. Anybody else got a hand up? That's what it is. All right, folks. We're gonna finish up at the bottom. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha ulchana elehodot. All right, folks. We're going to turn finally to page 179, and let's read together in English. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. All right, we'll take a moment for our own personal prayers and reflections. Then we'll join back together with Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'yimeru amen. Okay, folks, we are going to turn forward now to page 371 for our Misha Berach prayer for healing. We are praying as a congregation this evening for Raphael Aliyetti, David Ben Esther, Terry Bennett, Thomas Brophy, Tom Brown, Lester Bergman, Louis Calcetera, Tegan Christofferson, Lou Ellen Egan, Tom Furch, Lauren Furman, Sandra Gutman, David Hecht, Sheila Hickok, Sarid Katsu, Reverend Rebecca Kindig, Helen Lewis, Jim Mason, John McFeely, Rowan Nicciolino, Jeremy Orden, Manny Orden, and Robin Orden, Maxine Oringer, Ken Roberts, Jim Rosenstein, Sherry Schwartz, Shmuel Emin Ruvain, Mibet Avraham Basara, Jennifer Stile, Rabbi Lance Sussman, Timothy Swindell, Dick Watanabe, Rhonda Waxman, Elena Witter, Phyllis Young, Eugenia Zaroli, and Jaeger Zopp. And if you'd care to add a name to our prayer list, then just raise your hand. We'll get the mic around to you in a sec.
Grayson Porter, and Scott Wool.
Thank you.
Joan Wagner.
Thank you. Anybody else? Keep your hand up so Robin can see you.
Ron Ayton and Elizabeth Monahan.
Thank you.
Leah Mead, Jay Stevo, and Carrie Kane.
Thank you. Makor habracha laimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishebeirach imotenu, mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Praying for a refuah shalema, a complete and speedy recovery to all those that we're holding in our hearts this evening. All right, folks, I'm going to take a moment here for a couple words of Torah. We are this week on the very, very, very last Torah portion of the book of Exodus, Parashat Pekudei, which prominently features the sort of finale of the big process of collecting the materials for and designing and constructing and setting up the Mishkan, the portable sanctuary where our people worshipped during their years of wandering in the wilderness. There's a moment here after Moses had set up the camp, the tent, which I find particularly noteworthy. It says, when Moses had finished the work of setting up the Mishkan after its construction, the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the presence of Adonai filled the Mishkan. And what's really interesting about this is there's an immediate change that happens. When the space has been set up, there's no indication of any waiting for, there's no formal ceremony. Moses doesn't say anything. Nobody has to offer a sacrifice or anything. Here in this particular description, right, the tent is being set up and poof, God's presence is filling the space. And this got me thinking about the nature of sacred space, right? And the way our ideas about sacred space and what makes a space sacred have changed so much during the many, many centuries of the existence of the Jewish people. At the very beginning, in the very early patriarchal narratives of the Bible, you get a picture of this earlier conception of sacred space, where sacred space is closely tied to personal encounters with the divine. The paradigmatic example of this is Jacob having his dream while on the road to Haran, right? He has a dream in which he witnesses, a ladder to heaven and angels going up and down, and God speaks to him. He has this vision in a dream. He wakes up. He comments, oh, wow, God was in this place and I did not even know it. He erects a stone, and he changes the name of the place to Beit El, the house of God, to commemorate the experience that he had. And this is something that we find often in the patriarchal narratives, where the names of a place are tied to a particular encounter that someone had with God in that place. and where the particular experience of God is tied to the place where you had that experience, right? Abraham talks about the God who spoke to me in such and such a place, right? Jacob talks about the God of my ancestors who spoke to me when I was in this location and I had this vision, right? The experience of the divine is closely tied to the location, and the holiness of the location comes from the fact of having an experience of God in that place. This changes by the time we get to the generation of Moses and the Mishkan. Because now it's not simply about noting, okay, we had a divine experience here, so this is a holy place, and over there somebody had an experience of God, so that's also a holy place, and we've just got a series of altars scattered all over the place, sort of a map of the places where we have encountered God. Now it's more centralized. The people is building a specific space, an enclosure, where they are going to have their encounters with God. And so now it's not about God coming to you where you are, it's about you going to God, because there's a place where God's presence is said to dwell, and that's the Mishkan. Now that Mishkan is portable. It can be here, it could be there, right? But ultimately, wherever the Mishkan is standing, that's where God's presence is going to be, and that's where we go to have an encounter with God. That is now our sacred space as a people, and the Torah starts giving warnings about never offering any sacrifices anywhere but there in that one single place. And interestingly, how we mark or how we recognize the sacredness of that space also seems to have shifted, right? Because instead of it being like, okay, I was here and I had a dream and God spoke to me and that's how I know it's a sacred space, now suddenly we've got this idea of God's presence, the cloud of God's glory, of God's kavod, which settles on this sacred space that we've constructed in a very visible way, right? The whole people it's not just my experience of God, the whole people can witness this cloud, and it's as it were kind of an objective marker of this is where God lives now, right? That idea persists even after the Mishkan is no longer in use, and Solomon has built the temple in Jerusalem. The temple in Jerusalem is essentially a permanent version of the Mishkan. The Mishkan is a sanctuary that can be taken up and put down, taken down, and moved from place to place. The temple is basically a version of the Mishkan that works in a similar way. In the Haftarah for this week, it talks about how God's presence, this cloud, appears in the Holy of Holies once they've built the temple, right? But it's now not the holy space is where we have erected the tent. It is now the holy space is this one particular place, this one particular hill in the city of David. And that, says Solomon, forever is where Jews are always going to go to have their encounters with God. And that is the place to which we are always going to look. We're always going to turn in that direction. That's now our sacred space, says Solomon. So there's a problem then that arises. Because eventually, that temple gets torn down. So a new generation comes along and they build the temple anew, the second temple. But then much, much later, right, the Romans conquer, and eventually after revolt and rebellion and rebellion and revolt, the Romans tear that temple down as well. And we haven't had a temple ever since. And Rabbinic Judaism, the entire approach to Judaism, that is basically our approach to Judaism, arises in this moment where the rabbis have to figure out, what do we do about sacred space now that our sacred space, the one place that we had been saying for generations, that's the place that we are all going to go to have our encounter with God, that place isn't there anymore. We may hope that it'll eventually be there again, but it's not there now. What do we do about sacred space? There's an interesting passage on this in the Talmud, Masechet Chagiga. It gives this teaching. Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish both say, when the temple was standing, the altar atoned for a person. Now, a person's table atones for them, like their table that you would eat off of. And there's something really interesting going on here. Rabbinic Judaism continues to make use of designated public spaces for public religious activity. We've got the synagogue, which really comes into its own after the Second Temple is destroyed. We've got the Beit Midrash, the house of study. These are public places to worship. But when it comes to designating this is the archetype of sacred space, Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish don't pick the synagogue and they don't pick the house of study, they pick the humble kitchen table. There's something intimate here. There's a shift in the conception of holiness that goes along with the shift in our conception of holy space. It's a functional definition of holiness now. Holiness isn't associated with an inherent quality. This place is the holy place. It's the only holy place, and you can tell because the cloud of God's presence appears there and only there. Now, the quality of holiness is not associated with the thing or the place, it's with how we're making use of the space. To take the example of the table, it's not the table itself that's holy, it's how we use the table. It's when we invite people in to eat with us who may not have food. It's when we sit around the table and we discuss words of Torah or we come together to pray. It's what we do with the space that makes it holy. It's not the space itself that makes us holy. Pirkei Avot, Rabbi Shimon said, if 3 people have eaten at the table and have not spoken words of Torah, it's as if they'd eaten sacrifices to the dead. As it says, for all the tables are full of filthy vomit when hamakom is absent. Meanwhile, if 3 have eaten at one table and they have spoken their words of Torah, it's as if they had eaten at the table of hamakom. Blessed be he. As it says, and he said to me, this is the table before Adonai. Note here the use of hamakom. This is a characteristic rabbinic name for God, which literally means the place. Instead of the sanctuary as God's place, the place where God is, now God is the place, the presence which opens up a dimension of holiness in whatever place that we happen to find ourselves. As the Kotzker Rebbe is said to have said in response to the question, where does God live? He said, wherever you let him in. And that's a particularly rabbinic conception of sacred space that, we still continue in some respects to work with today. The synagogue is a sacred space, but it's a sacred space because of what we do here and not because of anything related to the way the building is constructed or the nature of the architecture or even of the things that we keep within it, the Torah scroll, the books, everything, right? All of that is ultimately ancillary to and supportive of the things we do here, which ultimately are the real source of the holiness of the place. And so I'm going to open it up to you. The question for tonight is to reflect on what makes a space holy for you. And what are some places where you have found the place, hamakom? What are some places where you have encountered holiness?
Not so much about sacred spaces that I had, but Rabbi Jacob Horowitz of blessed memory, who was the rabbi at Temple Israel, used to talk about people would say to him, well, you don't have to go pray in the synagogue. You can we just go out and go pray in the forest? And he would have said, actually, yes, wherever you pray would be a sacred space, but when was the last time you went out and prayed in the forest? So sometimes it's handy to have a spot because that helps people know where to go. Mm-hmm. And there's also other people there who can help you along with making this space sacred.
Absolutely.
That either makes clear or just reminds me of the countless women's seders that we've done, particularly the ones based on The Journey Continues that Debbie Friedman wrote the music for, where very close to the beginning, almost the first thing we do is sing the song about making a Makom Kadosh. And in that space with all the women, it very much does feel sacred.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Part of what makes the place sacred are the people that we gather together with. If we're not here together, if we're not with each other, and our family, because whether we're family by blood or family by friends, I think it's the people that help to make a place sacred.
Good comment. Thank you.
When I was a young teenager, or mid-teenager, actually even before then, I had experiences, personal experiences, where my family would be renting a cabin, like at Red Pond or Schroon Lake, and I would go out and I'd be wandering around, and it was almost like the story of follow your nose, and I'd walk around and I would just follow that, and I'd find things, but I would have this almost like a dialogue with, I didn't call it God, I didn't call it some supreme power, I hadn't even been bar mitzvahed or anything, but I felt this connection with a greater power that didn't fit the description of this, fire and brimstone God, vengeance and everything. It was like almost a gentle friend over my shoulder. And I would have a communion, and I always felt that was very special. And to me, that was a very special, sacred place.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Do we have anyone else who wanted to say anything? I'm not seeing any other hands up, I think. I think that may be it. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your thoughts. There's some great comments this evening. And now, here in this moment, in this sacred space, we're going to get back to our Siddur to continue on with the service. I'm going to share the screen up here, and we're going to turn to page 587. And Carol, if I can invite you up to open the ark for us. Thanks. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula liotzer b'reshit, shehu sam chelkeinu liyached et shemo, v'gor aleinu le'amlich malchuto, v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim, Lifnei Malach Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Feel free to have a seat. We'll continue on 591. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol ha'aretz bayom ha'hu yigeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. All right, folks. Turning forward now to page 598 for the Mourner's Kaddish. This week, our congregation mourns the passing of Fern Sternberg, Genevieve Adomai, Robert Newberger, Debbie Zapataki, Vivian Kalabsa, and Ruth Dorfman. And we are also remembering the yard sites of Stephen Lynn, Sidney Stern, Sarah Bloomberg Ashman, Robert Greenblatt, Morton Gumbiner, Eve Harris, Earl Gordon, Ethel Hernan Katzen, Tilly Memis, Pauline Regenbogen, Marcia Roth, Lieb Weislander, Nancy Brink, Hilda Sternberg Jacobs, Roberta Badanes King, Joseph Rieger, Cantor Andrew Salzer, Shirley Schwartz, Julius Goodman, and Judy Klotzkin. Please rise if you're able and comfortable doing so for the mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah B'alma divrach Hirutei v'yamlik malchutei B'chaye chon uvyome chon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'gala uvizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yahei Shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam ulolmei almaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yit pa'ar v'yit romam v'yit naseh v'yit hadar v'yit alev v'yit halal shemei dekudsha barichu la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechamata da'miran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. May their memories be for a blessing. Please feel free to have a seat. Couple of quick things to announce. The big thing that's coming up this month that I really want to plug is our community Seder. That is happening second night of Passover, which is April 13th. It's a Sunday evening. Encourage people to sign up. Please do call ahead and sign up. We're asking people to RSVP by the Sunday prior to the Seder. So we also have Yom HaShoah coming up, Yom HaAtzmaut, so keep an eye out for Nerot on announcements. And also want to say way to go on everybody who's been showing up to committee meetings, like social action, like everything else. Keep it coming, folks. Finally, I will put out the word that the reform movement, URJ, is very much making a plug this year particularly, encouraging people to vote in the World Zionist Congress elections. Doing so is a way of exerting influence on the direction in which the State of Israel is going in various ways, including the distribution of funds, and voting for the reform slate is a good way of advancing reform Jewish values like religious tolerance and pluralism, like a peaceful coexistence with the Palestinians, like the democracy as a thing, right? All of these values that we all hold dear. It's a good way to exert some kind of influence on the State of Israel. So the email about that we sent out today contains a link in how to do that, and also a link for looking at the actual slate and platform of the reform ticket, as it were. We're going to finish up on page 625 with the Don Olam. And then we'll finish up and head into the social hall. Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra leit nasa v'chevtzo kol azai melech shemo nikra ve'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora Vehu haya, vehu hove, vehu yihye betifara, vehu echad, ve'en sheni, lehamshila leachbira, beli reshit, beli taklid, velo haoz, vehamisra, vehu eli, vechai goali, V'tzur chavli beyetzara, vehu nisi umanos li, menat kosi beyom ekra beyado, afkid ruchi, beyeti shan veyayira, veim ruchi geviati, Adonai li velo ira. All right, folks. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here with us tonight.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shalom.